Good morning, students. Hope all of you are fine. Beta, in this lecture also we will continue with the chapter this Mahatma Gandhi and the Nationalist Movement, which is the chapter 13 of part 3 of your syllabus. And today we will discuss the topic dialogues. Like in previous lecture we discussed about the salt satyagraha, the non-cooperation movement. So this is the further extension of Mahatma Gandhi's campaign. The Salt March was notable for at least three reasons. First, it was this event that first brought Mahatma Gandhi to world attention, and the march was widely covered by the European and American press. Like in previous topic, we read about that magazine article. And second, it was the first nationalist activity in which women participated in large numbers. So the socialist activist Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay had persuaded Gandhiji not to restrict the protest to men alone. Earlier, women were not the part of the nationalist movement, but now women also started participating in the nationalist movement, and Kamala Devi was herself one of numerous women who courted arrest by breaking the salt or liquor laws. Third, and perhaps most significant, it was the Salt March which forced upon the British the realization that their Raj would not last forever. It means it was just like a warning for the Britishers, and that they would have to devolve some power to the Indians, that they cannot have the monopoly over the country. Now they are to hand over some powers to the Indians. To that end, the British government convened a series of roundtable conferences. Like in previous lecture, when Lord Irwin name was there, then I was telling you about the roundtable conferences, and these were held in London. The first meeting was held in November 1930, but without the preeminent political leader in India, thus rendering it an exercise in futility. Gandhiji was released from jail in January 1931, and the following month had several long meetings with the Viceroy. These culminated in what was called the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, by the terms of which civil disobedience would be called off, all prisoners released, and salt manufacture allowed along the coast. Means according to these Gandhi-Irwin Pact, there was these three main things, that the civil disobedience would be called off, and all the prisoners of these movement they will be released. With that, the salt manufacturing will be allowed along the coast. The pact was criticized by radical nationalists, for Gandhiji was unable to obtain from the viceroy a commitment to political independence for Indians. Like we have read earlier about the radical. Those were the aggressive person, like at any cost they wanted independence for the country. So now this particular agreement or pact, we can say, this was criticized by the nationalist, radical nationalists, and because the Gandhiji was unable to obtain the commitment of political independence, he could obtain merely an assurance of talks towards that possible end. Then a second roundtable conference was held in London in the later part of 1931. Here Gandhiji represented the Congress. However, his claims that his party represented all of India came under challenge from the three parties, from the Muslim League. Like there Gandhiji uh, claimed that he is represented the country. But there were some oppositions like the Muslim League, which claimed to stand for the interest of the Muslim minority, from the princes, who claimed that the Congress had no stake in their territories, and from the brilliant lawyer and thinker B.R. Ambedkar, who argued that Gandhiji and the Congress did not really represent the lowest caste. So there were these type of opposition. Basically, three parties were there who opposed Gandhiji during this second roundtable conference. You can see this image also, this figure 13.9. This is from the second roundtable conference, London. And Mahatma Gandhi opposed the demand for separate electorates for lower caste. He believed that this would prevent their integration into mainstream society and permanently segregate them from other caste Hindus. Means Gandhiji vision was also very clear that he doesn't want if we will provide the separate electorate to the lower caste, then for forever these castes they will be separate from the mainstream of society. And B.R. Ambedkar, he opposed Mahatma Gandhi. So the conference in London was inconclusive. Inconclusive means there was no, it didn't come to any conclusion. So Gandhiji returned to India and resumed civil disobedience. And the new viceroy, Lord Willingdon, was deeply unsympathetic to the Indian leader. Now the new viceroy was there, Lord Willingdon, and he was unsympathetic. Means he doesn't have any sympathy for the Indians. In a private letter to his sister, Willingdon wrote, "It's a beautiful world if it was not for Gandhi." At the bottom of every move he makes, which he always says is inspired by God, one discovered the political maneuver. I see the American press is saying what a wonderful man he is. But the fact is that we live in the midst of very unpractical, mystical, and superstitious folk who look upon Gandhiji as something holy. Means he just wrote about Mahatma Gandhi, all these things. He was not influenced by Gandhiji's vision. In 1935, however, a new Government of India Act promised some form of representative government. As you know, beta, this Government of India Act 1935, after implementation of this act, now the provincial government was allowed at the provinces level, and the 2 years later, in an election held on the basis of a restricted franchisee, the Congress won a comprehensive victory. But a restricted franchisee means few categories were allowed to vote. That is known as the restricted franchisee. Like universal franchisee hota hai when all the people have the right to vote, right? So here the Congress won a comprehensive victory. Now 8 out of 11 provinces had a Congress Prime Minister working under the supervision of British governor. And the offer was refused. In protest, the Congress ministries resigned in October 1939. Through 1940 and 1941, the Congress organized a series of individual satyagraha to pressure the rulers to promise freedom once the war had ended. Meanwhile, in March 1940, the Muslim League passed a resolution demanding a measure of autonomy for the Muslim majority areas of the subcontinent. Now there was the demand for separate country for the Muslim majority area. And the political landscape was now becoming complicated. It was no longer Indian versus the British. Rather, it had become a three-way struggle between the Congress, the Muslim League, and the British. At this time, Britain had an all party government whose Labour members were sympathetic to Indian aspiration, but whose conservative Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, was a die-hard imperialist who insisted that he had not been appointed the King's first minister in order to preside over the liquidation of the British Empire. In the spring of 1942, Churchill was persuaded to send one of his ministers, Sir Stafford Cripps, to India to try and forge a compromise with Gandhiji and the Congress. Talks broke down. However, after the Congress insisted that if it was to help the British defend India from the Axis power, then the Viceroy had first to appoint an Indian as the defense member of his executive council. It means now Indians were demanding higher designation, the powers in the government. And in September 1939, 2 years after the Congress ministries assumed office, the Second World War broke out. Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru had both been strongly critical of Hitler and the Nazis. Accordingly, they promised Congress support to the war effort if the British in return promised to grant India independence once hostilities ended. So now, during the Second World War, these Congress leaders they told to support the war effort to the British, but in return they demanded the independence also. Now the next topic is about the quit India, right? So this quit India topic that we will discuss in the next lecture. So thank you and have a nice day.